Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Innovation Podcast, your source for all things innovation. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at @AdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, today I have Ashley Crowder on the line, and she is CEO and co-founder over at VNTANA. Ashley, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
So, Ashley, I'm excited to get into what you're doing over at VNTANA and how you're helping your clients. But before we do that, let's get a little bit further into your background. So how'd you get started in your career and in business?
Yeah, it's a pretty different ride. You know, in college, I didn't quite know AR and VR was an option, right? It didn't quite exist. I always loved building things. You know, I watched my dad start his own construction company. I'd go around to the job sites. So I loved watching that and saw the value of building your own business. So I always wanted to start my own company and had something going, whether it was tutoring or selling granola bars on the bike trail. And in college, I studied engineering to be able to learn how to build and manufacture things, which was great. And I also started importing sunglasses from China at the time to resell them. And that's actually how I met my co-founder, because he was also doing that, which is a very weird side project to have. So yeah. Our mutual friends introduced us. They're like, you guys got to meet. And so obviously we're always throwing around business ideas, and eventually founded VNTANA. And what really got me interested in this space is, you know, again, I studied engineering at USC. They have a partnership with the military called ICT, where the military funds research in mixed reality development. And once I saw that and got involved there, I was like, this is the future. This is going to change every industry as we know it. And I want to be a part of that change.
Wow, that's super exciting. And what a story. You were both, I can't even imagine how that conversation went. It was like, you import sunglasses? I do too. I can't take it. That's so good.
Very weird.
and I love that you bring up this idea. You're like, well, when I was in college, AR, VR, when I think about myself, I'm like, well, I didn't know I was going to be a podcaster. That's for sure. I don't know if podcasts were even around when I graduated college, but if they were, I didn't know about them. So it's interesting how things work out. So that being said, Ashley, let's switch it up a bit. I think this is a good transition. Let's get into VNTANA and what you're doing there. Tell us a little bit more about the company, please.
Yeah, so we ended up founding the company almost 8 years ago now. And again, you know, 8 years ago, phones weren't capable of augmented reality yet. You know, there were no VR headsets on the market. So when we started, we provided turnkey mixed reality solutions for big brands like Intel, Microsoft, Adidas, Nike to engage consumers at events, trade shows, and sports sponsorship locations. So we would provide that turnkey solution. And in doing that, you know, of course, everyone wants a hologram of their executive, their celebrity endorsement deal in their product. And when it came to their products, nobody had the proper 3D models needed to do that. And so we ended up writing a lot of software to help automate the process of taking those manufacturing design files and making them usable across 3D web, AR, and VR. And so fast forward to more recently, now that everyone's phone is capable of augmented reality, so you can actually do virtual try-on, hold your phone up and see a shoe on your foot, for example, or the IKEA app where you can see a couch in your home. And now more and more people have headsets. And even just your website today, web can now support 3D assets. So we can let you have a 3D version of that product on your website instead of a 2D image. And so now we've started licensing our software to all of these companies to help them easily create these 3D e-commerce experiences at scale.
So, I mean, for VR, you've been in the business for a long time. 8 years is a long time for that business, and it's evolved so much. What excites you about it right now? Like, I'm sure it's so much, but what wakes you up in the morning and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened? Like, what's the future? Tell us some trends.
Yeah, well, what's so exciting is every phone that came out at the end of last year has multiple cameras on it. There was a big deal when Apple made their announcement. People kind of were like, why are there this many cameras on the phone? Nokia did the same thing. And that's all to do better tracking. So we actually can have some pretty amazing virtual try-on experiences just with your phone. To being able to hold it up, as I said, and see that shoe on your foot or that ring on your finger. And that is drastically changing online shopping. And especially in this situation we're in now, the only way for these brands to reach consumers is through digital because we're all quarantined. And so what better way than to have a 3D version of your product instead of just that 2D image? And studies have shown, sorry.
No, go ahead. Studies have shown what?
Studies have shown having a 3D version of your product on your website has doubled conversion rates and reduced returns. So there's real money on the table there. And then adding in that layer of augmented reality, companies like House has seen an 11x increase in conversions. So it really is a better way to do online shopping.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. And so what do you think is next for online shopping with these 3D models? Like, what does this look like next? And when we go, at some point when we go on there, is pretty much everything going to be, would you say at some point 3D, like that makes sense on there?
Yes, every brand we're talking to is really fleshing out their 3D strategy now. And that's what's so important, is to look at, okay, we're designing in 3D with the manufacturers and our design team. How do we make that asset usable across our organization? So sales and marketing shouldn't need to recreate that or hire agencies. You should just be able to use that same design asset in every department. And that's something we're really trying to help people do with our software. So we can just take that file, immediately convert it so you can copy and paste code to put it on your website. So every website can actually have a 3D version. So I know I talk about, shoes and jewelry, but think about Home Depot. I don't know if you do work at home on your house, but it always requires 3 Home Depot trips because I never know exactly what I...
3, you're more efficient than me.
Yeah. But, if you could actually look at that bracket online and spin it around to see, okay, that is how that would fit, right? It just gives that consumer a better understanding. So I think the first wave will be just having that 3D version on your website, which is doable today. And then that next step is once you have that, you can then start offering augmented reality experiences. And then a step further, we're working companies like Google. Now you can advertise with 3D assets. They have a 3D ad platform, which is huge. Facebook launched their AR advertising. Shopify launched their AR support. So these big platforms are now making this available. You just need 3D assets to take advantage of that.
So, a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs, executives listening, you mentioned, some companies like Home Depot. Should the small business owner be thinking about this, the small business like online retailer that's doing a couple million in sales a year? I mean, should they be thinking about this also?
Yes, definitely. And as I mentioned, Shopify has a number of those smaller retailers, and they have done the hard work of creating that web viewer for you. So if you're on Shopify today, you can have a 3D version of your product, and you can have AR place it tomorrow. You just need that 3D asset. And there's a lot of different ways to do it. If you don't manufacture your own products, you can still have a 3D asset made by a 3D artist, and it's not that expensive. You're talking about, $100 or so on average to initially create that 3D asset, and then it's licensing some software to be able to do some of the cooler things with it. So I think it's definitely something they should be thinking about.
Oh, man. See, you got me all excited. I want a 3D asset, too, and I want a physical product. I don't sell any. That's awesome. Because I just see it, and I'm excited as a shopper also, just to be on there and to see other things. Because you're right, I've seen it before for, some fashion things and other things, just shopping online. But, like that Home Depot bracket, that was a great example. I'm like, dang, that would be very useful, Home Depot, if you're listening. So, Ashley,
for sure.
That being said, if somebody's listening to this and they want to learn more about VNTANA or to reach out, what's the best way for them to connect with you and your company?
Yeah, so come to our website. It's VNTANA.com, so VNTANA without the E. And all of our social is VNTANA Live.
Fantastic. Well, Ashley, it's been great having you on the show today. Appreciate you giving us more on your background and your career and how you got started, and also all the great work that you're doing over at VNTANA. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review on the Apple iTunes Store. If you're watching this on our YouTube channel, Mission Matters Innovation, definitely give us a subscribe there, but also leave some comments on the video. Love to know what you're working on and what kind of projects you have going on. And Ashley, thanks again for coming on the show.